Okay, everybody, welcome back to the shop. So today, I'm going to make a video that I have been putting off for a very long time about the U.S. military's M9 bayonet system. So this bayonet has been in the military inventory since, 1987. So that seems like a long time to most folks, but to be very honest with you, I didn't have one of these in 1987. I was still carrying an M7, and I carried M7s probably up to about the time that around 9/11, right? So this bayonet system is designed to do more than just be a bayonet. And, you know, kind of for that reason, it's it's big, it's heavy, it's complex compared to an M7. It's not super complex. And because it's big and bulky and heavy and it makes a lot of noise, soldiers like me tend not to like it very much. I will take an M7 over one of these any day. That does not mean that this is a bad piece of equipment. It's not. One of the things that I like about it is that when they originally designed these knives, they were made by the Buck Knife Company. Now this one is not a Buck, it's a Land K. You can see that. In fact, this is a very late Land K. But I thought that was pretty cool. Now, apparently, these bayonets are used in a lot of online games, you know, first-person shooter kind of games. I have no idea. I don't do that. So, I know my kids saw this bayonet and they went, "Oh, that is the knife from whatever game they play." So, over the years, it has morphed. It has changed a little bit. It has improved. In fact, that's what this is called. This one that you see in front of you right here today, which is at least probably 20 years old, is one of the latest versions. This is called the product improved version. So let's talk about some of the things that we can see and some of the things that we can't. So first off, the knife bayonet, well, I should say it's designed to be a bayonet, okay? Now, this bayonet is designed to be used on the M16 family of rifles and M4 carbines, okay? And because of that, the locking mechanism and the ring size are identical to the M7 bayonet, okay? So I don't have an M16 here, but if I did, you could see that the barrel goes in here, right, the flash hider, and then the bayonet lug, which sits under the barrel, locks into here. See if you can see that. And this is how it secures, right? So it's the same as the M7 bayonet. All right, so it's designed to be a bayonet. It's designed to be a utility / combat knife, which is kind of funny because generally in the Army, unlike the Marine Corps, generally in the Army we don't really do combat knife training, right? That's a specialized kind of training. However, this is also designed to be a wire cutter. Okay, which is interesting. The Russians and the USSR came up with a wire cutting bayonet before we did, and apparently we thought that was so cool that we had to have one, and ours had to be even better, Rambo looking, right? So This is what we wound up with. Now, it will cut wires. It's not easy. This one is not great, right? By the way, this is not the knife that I carried in the military. You can see it's a little dirty, right? There's some dust and dirt and schmutz and stuff on here. So when I was in the military, I would tend to buy pieces of equipment that were brand new. And then whenever I had an inspection, I would lay out my beautiful, brand new, clean stuff. And I would take all of my issued stuff that was covered with dirt and dust and, you know, grime, and put it in the trunk of my car so that it wouldn't be seen during inspection. And then I would use the Army issue stuff when I was in the field. So all of that to say, this is clearly not the one that I had, because I would have kept the clean one, not this one. So speaking of clean, I'm going to show you how to disassemble it. Now first, let's go back to wire cutting. So it says specifically in the manual that this knife and scabbard are not electrically insulated, so do not cut electrical wires. All right, that's kind of crap, actually, right? Because sometimes the wires you have to cut are going to be live electrical wires. And if you look at my video on the Army ASEC knives, you'll see the Gerber where it's burned on the blade from cutting live electrical wires. And that Gerber knife does have electrical insulation. So this knife does not have electrical insulation. One of the things that people cite about this knife that they don't like is that the tang is short, and the tang only comes to here. So that's not entirely true, and I'm going to show you why. Because we're going to disassemble this knife, and I'm going to show you what it looks like inside. But so this is how it goes right on your pistol belt. All right, you put your pistol belt in here, clamp this down, and then it hangs on your belt like this, right? And you can tell it makes a fair amount of racket, and most of the time we wound up taping these down with duct tape so that we didn't have all that rattling going on. So the last function that this bayonet is supposed to do is be a screwdriver. So this is a flat tip screwdriver. Earlier versions had this down here. And that was kind of a problem, especially for the guys, paratroopers that were issued these, because we had to put a bunch of tape on it to keep it from stabbing ourselves, right? And there's a tie-down strap that goes with it. If you're jumping as a paratrooper, you have to have the tie-down strap. But you may have seen a couple of other of my videos. We generally tape everything down, right? So this was a slight improvement, and it moves the flat tip screwdriver over to the side where it's a little less likely to hurt you. Now, you can take it off of your web belt, right? You can see there's a buckle right here, which also rattles. So you can take it off of your web belt, right, without having to take the whole thing off. And then you can use it, right, as a tool like that. And then you can put it back on your web belt, just like that, okay? So it's got this one snap. This again is the product improved version. Earlier versions had the snap coming across the guard and snapping onto the actual scabbard itself, right? And that was done away with. Also, earlier versions had a sharpening stone right here, and this version does not. And here's something you may not know, okay? Even soldiers that carried these things didn't necessarily know. When you have your sharpening stone on here and you are exposed to chemical weapons, you have to remove the sharpening stone, which is a pain in the ass because it's epoxied, right? So the reason for that is the sharpening stone absorbs the chemicals. So you wind up carrying this thing right next to your body, right? And it's absorbed all the chemicals, and that's bad. So they did away with that. Now, I'm going to disassemble this knife and do what we call PMCS, right? Periodic Maintenance Checks and Services. 10 level, user level disassembly and stuff. And I'll show you how that works. So, on the back here, you have a nut. Now, it is also you can use a hex wrench, right? So, full disclosure, I loosened this one so that I wouldn't be struggling with it when I got on the camera. So, you can use a hex wrench if you have one, okay? And if you don't have one, you can use your screwdriver, right? And now, this is important. I want you to watch. This comes off as one piece. Now, how do you know not to turn it around? Because of the way the pins come out. The pins go in here. And then they give you this little dot. In case you're a dummy, they tell you that the dot faces out, right? So you can take this part off. You can see this one is pretty schmutzy, right? Not really clean. I'll grab a cleaning rag here in just a second. Same with the nut, right? Not clean. You can take the handle off. Be careful with the blade, by the way, especially if you have it sharpened. You can take the handle off, one piece, okay? And now you can see. So there's actually a screw-on tang, which kind of makes it a full tang. Not really full, but you know, it goes all the way through the handle. Does that make sense? You can take it off with a set of pliers or a monkey wrench, and I'm going to pause right here and use a little movie magic. All right, so I cheated, took it over to the vise and loosened it, right? So this part screws right off, and you can see it's a little nasty, and that's why it didn't want to come on. But right, it's threaded. It's got the little flat spot right here, and it's threaded on the back for this nut. And your guard comes off. Okay. And then here's your blade. So it's threaded on this side, right? Kind of half threaded because it's flat. Does that make sense? Now, earlier blades, different versions had a fuller in the blade, and you can see this one does not have that. So let's line all this stuff up so we can see it kind of in order, right? So all of that to say, number one, you can and should disassemble and clean it, and number two, it's not really a short tang. It really isn't. It does go all the way through the handle. So You can clean it up with a little bit of oil, toothbrushes, some rags. The Army uses CLP, right, which is Cleaner Lubricant Protector. Whatever you want to clean it with. Now, some of these blades are bright, and some of them are dark, like this one, parkerized. And the funny thing is, in the Army, I was an armorer in the Army, we tend to take shiny stuff and spray it with what we call solid film lubricant, which is almost like spray paint that has molybdenum grease in it, if that makes sense. So, all right, so let's put it back together, right? So, it's important to remember that the top of the bayonet is where the muzzle and lock are going to go, okay? So, this piece and this piece, that's crucial, right? And why do I say that? Because you can disassemble it or reassemble it incorrectly. Ask me how I know. So, I'm just going to do this finger tight for the sake of the video, but I want you guys to understand that when you get to this part, right, luckily you've got this row down the back that will help you align this lock with the ring, okay? Remember how it's going to go on the rifle. Right, I'm just going to do it finger tight for the sake of the video, and I'll go back and tighten everything up in a minute with the vise and everything. So, there you go. Like I said, the M9 and the M7 are interchangeable. They're both made for the M16 series of rifles and the M4 Carbine, okay? Again, not my favorite piece of military gear, but it is really popular, so I would love to hear your questions, your comments down below. If this was educational, if this was helpful, if this was entertaining, please give me a thumbs up. If you like this kind of video about military knives and those kinds of things, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, because there's going to be plenty more coming. And just want to say thanks for joining me here in free America. God bless America, and I'll see you next time.